your funding. And now that economic times have hit everybody, private and public sector, the grant funding is extremely competitive. I know that's the same in Beth's world. It's just there's more hands out there, and there's really not that much more funding. So that's kind of what I've got in a nutshell.
Yeah, and just to add to the grants, our limited grant opportunities, part of it, because it's owned by the City of Whitehall, we don't qualify for other 501c3 grant opportunities that other regular nonprofit organizations, can apply for. So our pool just gets a little bit smaller because we are a municipality.
You have had some recurring grants.
Yeah, well, we apply for recurring grants, yeah.
Okay. Whereas
Like
the one for the women's group, they change it every year, I believe.
So we can only apply every 2 years.
Yeah.
I think it's been 3 years since we applied, and because you don't want to, you want to put it out there, and then you may not get selected at all because it goes into without people get up and present, and then the women that are members get to decide who where the money goes. But yeah, it's not a consistent thing, and that's the hard part with grants is we may apply for $50,000, and if we get anything, it's going to be less than half of what you're applying for, and then of course you need a CatchMark and things like that. But there's times you don't get anything, depending on how often or what how much money is out there or what they're actually interested in, who's reviewing. So we apply for between 70 and 100,000 every year from various granting organizations.
And I know Cindy Beth is currently working on one from Lowell's.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just got it.
And another federal grant? Maybe not. Federal grants kind of.
Yeah, Community Foundation for White Lake, the White Lake Community Fund. We're both applying to applications with the Community Foundation right now. And these are all seasonal, right? They come around once a year, maybe twice a year that there's opportunities, but we are limited, unfortunately, with our status of what we can actually apply for.
I do have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
but I
please.
don't know versus.
I think this is the absolute.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is okay. As much as this feels like a formal thing, I think it is. It's an important thing. But I think, we want to know what everybody has to say.
I have a couple of questions, which would be more background questions.
Yeah.
One around funding the Friends of the Playhouse, their role, their funding, because obviously there has been some funding and they were very integral in the building funding or for fundraising for that. So kind of where they fit into that, and then also, and I don't know if this would be grant or around a foundation kind of idea. I love the idea of a foundation just personally, because it helps with long term. That might not help with the short term. So I'd love to talk long term. That's time to do that. Yeah. But what about the Muskegon Community Foundation? Do they do anything outside, like in the White Lake community?
So they do. So the White Lake Community Fund, which is the fund based here in White Lake, is through the Community Foundation. So yes, we do get funding through them, but it's through a specific fund, which is actually the Bloomdahl Fund.
Okay.
That was her house behind here.
Yes.
She and her husband set up with that fund, and I think there's about $300,000 in there that we get money from. But there is, but it is a White Lake Community Fund that we pretty much is targeted to nonprofits in this area. So that's usually where our money comes from. Rarely do we go outside of the fund we don't get funding outside of that fund. So the relationship between the Playhouse and the Friends of the Playhouse, I can talk a little bit about that. So the Friends of the Playhouse were established back in like 2012, 2014, 13, before I was here. I was actually kind of a part of that group for a little while. And the idea was it was set up not originally as a nonprofit, but as a friend support group. Basically, how people who can come in and fix things can help support the Playhouse by volunteering, ushering, things like that. When it came up to, when I started in 2014, things were kind of underway to get an evaluation of the building because it was falling apart. It was really old. And so when I think it was like by February, March, we were bringing in consultants to look at the overall function of the building. At that point, the Friends we knew were going to be an important part of any kind of fundraising. So the Friends at that point became a 501c3 nonprofit organization that allowed them to collect funds as well as the city, because some people don't want to give to a municipality, but they're comfortable giving to a 501c3. So that's how that came apart together with that organization and the Playhouse. So basically, they exist to support the Playhouse and the Playhouse managing director in whatever way we need. And it might be that they do special fundraisers. They're doing membership drives. They did a special event back, and they're doing it again this year. So in May, it's going to be inviting folks that may or may not, currently have membership or are donors, and having them come in. We're going to have a little entertainment, some food, talk about the Summer Theater Festival and what's coming up and how people can be involved. So that's what they do. And then they pay for that, they advertise it, they work that event. The other thing that the Friends do, and this is part of their plan, they are considered a foundation. But the plan long-term, and correct me if I'm wrong, with the Friends, is to create an endowment, a sustaining endowment, $1 to $2 million that would allow us to have more money coming in over for operating. Now, for me, when I look at that vision, we're still in the point where we still owe $400,000 or so on the bond, which is really coming down quickly.
3 more years.
Huh?
3 more years.
3 more years, right? And yeah, so 3 more years of that. So when we're coming to the end of that, I'm thinking that might be the time for the committee, the Friends, to look at really pushing an endowment capital, an endowment campaign, and starting to raise that fund, either to be added to the Edna Blundell Fund, which is at 330 or something like that, or create a separate fund that we would have annual income, from that endowment. But that's what the Friends are there for. So the Friends are not a board for the managing director or for the Playhouse. They are a separate organization with their own goals and their own funding, but they do, support the Playhouse. We're going to be collectively together doing the business expo. So that's some of the things that we're doing together.
So, yeah, totally helps. So looking forward financially, if you have this, like you're saying, waiting the 3 years to maybe work towards that, what do you feel would be, will this shortfall continue? And that's not necessarily, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, just the reality. Will the shortfall continue for those 3 years? So you know what it is that kind of, I'm going to say getting ourselves into.
Right.
Projecting my arms around it.
Right.
If you look at the last 10 years of audited statements, the Playhouse, on average, would need to be subsidized by about $35,000 a year. So that's kind of your, we've had profitable years, we've had.
Right, and that's going to happen.
So it goes up and down, but that $35,000, if there was a constant subsidy, then we would probably be right at that break-even point every year.
And the 3 years idea is because you still have people that are paying,
that are pledging out.
They're pledging out because it was a 10-year pledge or whatever.
And it doesn't mean that it couldn't be started earlier, and there could be some people who have already paid off those pledges, and some did right away.
Yeah.
A lot of people did. Within the first year, a lot of those bigger, larger gifts were paid off in the first year. We had one that didn't start until this last year. She had another commitment, so she was paying off her $50,000 gift over a period of time starting last year. And that was still within the 10-year period. So it may be something worth having a discussion about with the Friends. No, you're absolutely right.
I was just curious as to what the thought process
I think it's just because, you go out, put your hand out all the time.
Yeah, I 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So this is something for the Friends to make a decision on, but looking forward, and this is something just to share to the group at large, is that when we went into this capital campaign back in 2016 and we started raising money, we got to that 1.7 million really quickly within a few months, and then went public with the rest of the campaign to seek funds. We knew, as we had been told, is that your annual operating gifts are going to go down, and we knew this was coming. So for me, this is not a surprise. We have had several of our really generous donors have passed away. They have moved on, they have moved away, and so it takes a long time to build those relationships with people. I'm not going to go up to Kara. Hey, have you ever heard of Playhouse? No, I would like you to give me $4,000. That just doesn't work that way. That is a challenge that we're faced with. But I think it's really up to the Friends to decide when that is. But when the Friends, we started meeting about a year ago regularly again, and that was on the top of the list, is to start a campaign for an endowment that would help the long-term sustainability of the theater.
When this was in front of, at the council meeting, we were discussing it. And I can't remember his name, they had the president of the.
Frank Benyer, who will hopefully be the chair of this when he comes back.
When he was speaking, I was surprised that there were a number of people in the audience that had not heard of the Friends.
Yeah.
And so if they can do a better job of getting their name out there, that might help.
Yeah.
It would help.
Yeah, and that, I hear what you're saying. And that is one of the reasons we're going to the Business Expo. We're going to be at that and giving out information, getting names of people, getting people signed up, giving them an opportunity to win a pass to the shows or to our youth theater workshop that's coming up. So you're right. I mean, it is all about marketing, right? Marketing costs money. Money that I don't have, that the Playhouse doesn't have, and not necessarily something the Friends have done, but they are doing, and that was part of the reason you've done the events that you've been doing.
Correct. And like last year, we did our first day event in May, like we're going to do again this year, and we had so many people. So our goal is this, we have a new goal for this, to invite new people, more people, and then again, and the main thing we're trying to do is get butts in the seats. Get people in, get people to know about the Playhouse, try to do that and see what we can do, and then try to work on more of an endowment. Yes, kind of our long range.
And they're a great group of really dedicated people. It's a small board of 8 or 9 individuals. And anybody can be a friend of the Playhouse. You can be a friend by buying a ticket, by making a donation of whatever kind, you can become a friend. And then you get more information, and then you're kind of an ambassador for the theater, saying, hey, this is great. I'm a friend of the Playhouse. Do you want to be a friend of the Playhouse?
And Friends, I'm assuming has a Facebook and Instagram.
No, they don't. And that's, again, because the folks that are on it aren't necessarily those folks who have the capacity or to do that. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has much, there is some amount of money that's been paid ahead, right, on the pledges and stuff that the city keeps in an investment.
Yep.
Yes.
And I don't know if, I think it's worth mentioning that there is some in the pool. I don't
Yeah.
know how much or what the impact of that is.
You invested some.
Without going into the details, because I don't have them, so I'll stretch it out like she's digging. We've had a number of people pay off for it, and what we have done is that's considered a restricted asset, and we've invested it, and we've been doing pretty fantastic as far as overall city investments, whether it's the marina, the water, sewer, the Playhouse, to the point where we've had some people default. And I think we've earned enough interest right now that we either are at the point where we can cover those defaults, or we will be at that point if the investments continue. So, the building expansion and renovation is pretty safe from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any money from, to be real specific, from How Met?
We do get some gifts from How Met. It is not as regular as I would like, and also, to be honest, it's time to reach out to them again.
Right, they are the number one
employer. Absolutely.
Well, but they're also the number one contributor to the film though.
Yeah.
And we're a lot closer to them than that.
Yes. We will be reaching out to them again. Am I mistaken in that there is a shifting in some of the staffing there?
There always is.
Okay.
But I think,
I think
the contact that I had recently is that they are revisiting their charitable gifting.
Right.
And hopefully it'll be, better for our position.
Yeah.
Because they used to have the community action grants where
Yeah, those are great.
30 employees would go out and do a work camp. And if they did that in the community, then there was, I think, $10,000
Yeah.
given to that community.
Those were so cool. We used to get those like almost every year. They would come in, like, they built shelves for us one time, they helped clean, they fixed some stuff. This is like prior to the renovation. They fixed a bunch of stuff and then they did all of this labor and then we got money. It was kind of the best of both worlds. I would love to see them reinstating that, but obviously we don't have any influence on that.
And then it dried up and we couldn't get, we tried to get money from them years and years and they were just.
Well, they got pretty focused on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And if it didn't get one of those,
Yeah.
you fell outside and you weren't an eligible recipient.
Now, if you want to talk about other, corporations, this is public information, but like High reached out to Highlight because we have a kids science fair event coming here for the month of June. It's going to be set up here in the lobby. And I contacted them and they immediately said yes to helping to underwrite that and sponsor it so we can have kids from Montague. Well, I'm hoping Montague will say yes, but kids from both Healy and Shoreline can walk here. Busing is always expensive, right? So they can actually walk here and they can come through during the day in the month of June before school's out. And then hopefully they'll bring their other family members back to come through. But they're sponsoring that. So we do have some of those relationships, which is, really great. And, other businesses that support us as well, so.
Does most of that contact fall between the two of you, like contacting others?
Pretty much
Do you
me.
get help from pretty much?
Pretty much me. Cindy, it's Cindy Beth and I.
Yeah.
So Cindy Beth is, for those of you who don't know Cindy, Cindy is our assistant managing director, and she does marketing as well as youth theater. That's kind of her focus. But she works half-time, so she's 20 hours a week. So with, she's right now in full grant mode. So she's probably working on 5 different grant applications currently, specifically for youth theater programming. It's a big part of what we do here at the theater, and the thing that, will help us to maintain what we're doing and build that audience for the future, as well as connecting kids that are all a little bit broken after COVID. So,
Is that something where you see a potential need for volunteer help?
yes,
Yes.
we
Through the
really,
friends or?
through the friends or through other people
through-
who have the time and capacity. I know we are doing a show this summer that we will have a youth chorus in at least 2 of our shows,
Yeah.
and we will need people backstage, and other people to volunteer.
I mean the actual, like, helping with the
Oh.
contacting
Oh,
businesses
yes.
in the community,
Yes,
the
is the answer.
fundraising.
Yes. Yes,
So if that's
to know,
something-
so if you are a person who
Yeah.
has that capacity, you know a lot of people in the business community, and you're willing to do that, absolutely. Sometimes it's just the introduction. Sometimes it's like, if you're a person who's passionate about the Playhouse and you go to your friend Phil, and who owns, ABC business, and you say, this is really important, and this is why, that's where those connections are made, and that's how we get people to buy in. It's doing cold calls, doesn't work. I'm actually, the Playhouse, we're part of the Muskegon Arts and Culture Coalition, which is in your packet. This is a group I've been a part of for about 3 years, and it was established primarily with Muskegon Arts and Culture groups, and they included us up here in the North Country, as well as the Arts Council. Are you Hannah?
I was just gonna try and do it so.
Sorry. Sorry. I'm as subtle as a freight train. But so this group actually formed in order to help businesses, introduce businesses to the arts and culture in the county, and to encourage them to say, hey, if you come here and you invest in these arts and culture, or you're at least aware of them and supporting them, when you go to recruit people for Howmet, for Highlight, for other businesses, and to come here and to live here, and families to come in and to live here, that's why it's important for you to invest in this and recognize that. So that's what this group actually does, and we're a really active part of that as well. So.
Good question. So trying to zoom out here and just looking over some of the financials, I'm looking at the plays that you've done historically, like last summer, The Hobbit.
Yep.
Those seem to be things that the programs are expensive. Do you find that regularly those types of events are a loss versus a gain? Because it kind of seems like they cost a lot to put on versus how much you're bringing in.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So it's basically in the summertime, we're almost always going to be ahead. And the reason that is because in the summertime, people are invested in being here. The off season, which I would call anything from September back to June, is our off season. And for the summertime, we work really hard to get enough grants and sponsorships and everything else to pay for that, because hopefully we make enough money that helps us get through the rest of the year. And traditionally that has been our model, is that we made the bulk of our money, and so we invest more money and we put more money into our production season in the summer, so that on the other end of it we'll go, oh, we've got this pool of money that will help us get through the cold winter, and then we start ramping up again. Does that answer your question?
It doesn't seem like that was the case, like that they were kind of bringing in enough extra funds. Is that
Yes.
where the misstep has been, or like this past summer, that they
Yes.
were kind of breaking even and
Yep.
you were getting a little behind? Okay.
Yep. And in the past, and again, it comes back to the Friends, making that commitment to want to help get butts and seats. And that's what we're really, when you get people in here, we're super successful. So it's just trying to get people through the door. And it's not that what we do isn't good. I think we produce really great shows. I think we bring in fantastic entertainment. In fact, I'll just give a little push for everybody. The Wild World of Animals Live will be here on Sunday at 3 o'clock after we have a church that's renting the theater. They leave out at noon, and we'll be bringing animals in the back door at 12:01 for a 3 o'clock show. But you just got to get people here, and that's and that comes, in order to do that, you need marketing dollars, right? You need that marketing money that we don't always have. I mean, our marketing budget for the entire year is probably under $10,000, which that's literally not anything.
So to kind of speak to the off season,
Yeah.
I've been speaking to people out in the community about like this situation. A lot of people are interested in winter events, actually, for the locals.
Yep.
And something that could be like recurring every Friday.
Yep.
This is going on, so people can make a plan to come every Friday.
Yep.
I know you guys have the SIPs and whatnot, but something that you could do, like a game night with Family Feud up there, newlywed game. All couples would love to come out, have a drink, whatever, and then you can use the same props over and over, so the
Okay.
overhead is very little. And then the tickets sell themselves, because you might get up on stage and have to embarrass your husband, which is game on for me. But things like that aren't a giant production, and the advertising can be Facebook. It really can. The dollars don't need to be spent outside of this community, because people, it's word of mouth, it's Facebook advertising, it's putting it on your running billboard out here, and the word gets out pretty easily without having to spend any overhead. And I know there's a lot of MCs around here that would love to do something like that are very entertaining, and I think it could just be something in the off season that the locals could look forward to and have something to go to. People usually frequent the pubs for like trivia night and whatnot. Same type of thing, but like you have this big stage, so how would you utilize that differently than like a trivia night? And it would be like pulling people up on it.
That's a really good idea.
That's a really good idea.
I have a
We
million
hear
really
them
good
to be in a
ideas,
pub.
because this is what I do.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I really like that idea.
Getting back to the individual event thing, I have a
Yeah.
question relating to that.
Yeah.
In the profitability per the event, do we ever cover the weekly operating expenses?
Probably not, to be honest.
That's-
I know it's a huge issue.
Right.
But when you've got 1.5 people running a 17,000 square foot building. So you're limited to who can be here. And we can't do more than 1 or 2 events a week, because we actually have to do the work to get to the point where we can have 1 or 2 events a week. So probably, I mean, not in all cases, let me say that. Let me preface that. In the summertime, we do a lot better. In the wintertime, our daily, I think you guys figured out, finance figured out, we're about $850 a day, just to have this building exist.
It's based on the last audit, just the
Yeah.
average.
The average expenses for heat, water, all of that business is about $850 a day.
Right,
Yeah.
More than a half.
Which is,
5,900 a week.
yeah, so
And
coming
so-
up with $5,900 a week just through events or rentals and things like that, we're not making that. That's where our grant funding helps. That's where, sponsorships from like Highlight come in and help us to have that money to help cover, some of those expenses. But we are not in any way, shape, or form coming close to that.
When you rent for the weddings, I see a few on here, and some are into the summer. Is it possible to hold off on those rentals, or are you charging enough for that?
We're charging a decent amount for a rental
And
like
they are
that,
Saturdays typically, because
typically a Saturday.
would that cover that week?
It doesn't cover the week, but it covers the
The
day.
only
and
reason
then
I'm
some.
saying is hold off to giving those prime dates to weddings if they're not gonna cover the full week anyways, because you already have some all the way into summer where those are the days that you could.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we
No.
could ask somebody for $5,000 to rent this place.
Right, I'm just saying hold off on weddings if you can get other events in place through the summer, if you're saying summer is your biggest bang for your
Well,
buck.
our summer doesn't officially start till July 1.
July, okay.
Yeah, so when you're
do
getting
you
into
have
that
weddings through
we do
July?
not do July and August
Okay,
weddings.
so-
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's where I was going. You keep those dates for your
Yeah,
events.
for our, Summer Theater Festival starts July 5th and goes through August 20, whatever,
Oh.
22nd, 23rd, something like that, I can't remember, yeah.
On the marketing front, just Facebook, I think, and Instagram at least for 55, so 55 and up, I'll say. It's a good, I think, way to communicate. But one thing that I would just as a potential idea, I feel like I love that I'm seeing more things coming out, but I don't always know what they mean. So for instance, like the sip-in, which is such a cool idea, and I love all of that. And I love, but I was like, well, what exactly is that? It's soup and something, and I did not even honestly realize that it was a fundraiser.
Okay.
And so I think, and I've heard through the community some other people say the same thing, so if we could be, I know you want to not put too much out there, because otherwise it's a
the
book and
balance,
nobody
right?
reads it.
It's like, oh my God, they're
But
posting
enough
again.
that they know exactly what the event is, or say if we're gonna do something fun, like what you were just talking about, enough information so that people don't wonder, well, what is that? And maybe I'll show, or maybe I won't show, so I just sort of as some feedback.
I really like that. One of the things that we had intended to do specifically for Sips and Spoons, because we had, 7, 8, 9 restaurants who want to be here, and it was amazing.
So cool.
It was very cool. And I really would love to have the restaurant owners and those, just like a 15, 20-second clip of them saying why they want to be here and why this is important. And explain, hey, I'm bringing, what are you bringing?
Urban bacon, maple Rice Krispie treats.
Yes.
Oh.
I know,
And maple
right?
lemonade.
Get your tickets, Simpson Soups,
Yeah.
February 22nd.
That chicken.
So, and every restaurant that came here volunteered their time, their product, and everything to be here to support the Playhouse. And one of the things that, and I know this, you know this, is that the fact that the Playhouse is here benefits the businesses in town. It benefits Kira, it benefits Peekadills for sure. The number of people who go down there before, things in the summer especially, I support them, 4 times a week while I'm here in the summer especially. But yeah, you can speak to that a little bit more. I'd love to hear from a business perspective.
That mine was something else, but no, absolutely. This is an amazing place. It brings in tons of people through our door, from your concert series that you have, from the shows with the actors. It's invaluable to have this Playhouse here for our businesses, ice cream shops, the hotels, every place, not just restaurants. But I think that we all benefit from the Playhouse being here and have shows. And you can't put a dollar amount on that. That's just how I feel. And then having the businesses here, what I was gonna say to that is trying to get them, I totally agree with you, social media, especially like you said, 35 and up, 40 and up. Facebook is so important. What I would like to do is as a business owner, a restaurant owner, it's hard to nail those business owners down and say, here's this, can you please put this out there on your social media? And that was our original intention, was to try to get the other businesses that are already going in their time, is to try to capture their audience on their social medias as well. But it's so hard when
It's just one more thing,
right?
For a business to do, right?
One for you guys too, like, hey, can you make that post? Hey, can you make that post? And we're, I literally feel like you guys, I see a lot more posts on Facebook too, but there could be more information out there, I agree, but just trying to get that.
Well, and more
done, take care of that.
specific
Yeah.
than actually what you
Like,
do.
what is this
and
thing?
What is this
What do
thing?
you do when you get here?
Yeah.
And my husband's that person, like, he loves going and doing, but he's like, okay, what's it gonna be like?
Yeah.
Like, when we get there, what's gonna happen? And that, you know him. But I do think that would be really helpful. So maybe that's something that,
Well, and if someone
Yeah.
knows, so for instance, it was
Yeah.
what, $35?
$30.
Which honestly is great. I mean, you can't hardly go out to dinner anywhere for $30
No, and all you
for a
can eat,
person.
we had somebody
Right.
come up, I think, and get 8 bowls of it. which is-
But I
They're saving money.
I'm not kidding.
You were not gonna knock me out.
It wasn't you. It was delicious,
money on
but I
this.
didn't
we
eat
might
it.
have gotten people that would come if if in their mind they knew, oh, I'm paying $30 and a portion of this is.
Well, now they have
Fun,
pictures from the
crazy.
last one. The first
Yeah,
one they didn't
the
have
first
any,
one,
so just make
right.
sure to advertise that as the
Yeah.
next one's coming up in a week or
Just
so.
specific.
And I love
Sure.
your idea of that, because as we get older, social media, how great would that be if you get like an arts major at one of the schools? Like, I know some of my boys that work for me, their social media skills, especially on the forms that we don't use, Snapchat, TikTok, all of that, they could get a volunteer to come in here and help you with that, and then that could go towards some of their, because they still do have volunteer
Like an
credits.
intern.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that for your staffing,
Yeah.
you should really reach out to the universities because
Exactly.
all of these college kids that are graduating need hours, so they do these internships for free as part of college credit for them. So you could
Even
have
Muskegon
at least,
Community College Baker.
Michigan State though, they
Yeah.
go everywhere. Their hospitality and tourism management is a huge degree.
Yes. that-
And all of them need hours. And hotels snatch them up. They would love to not be at a hotel.
Yeah.
They would prefer to be at a place like
Right.
the Playhouse.
Yeah.
And they're free, and they work hard, and they're 20-year-olds with a lot of energy.
That's what I
So
would ask
you
about,
really
because
need to
like
get-
Grand Valley has unlimited money.
Yeah.
They can, I mean,
I work for
I don't know how you could partner with
Yeah.
schools, but it seems to me that that's
They need
a place
placements.
for
That's
good
just more
money.
They
time
do
for
need
Beth, that
placements.
she's finding that. But
Well, and these are all wonderful ideas, and it's something I will look into again. We have, in years past, we have reached out to the universities about interns for various things, like theater interns and things like that. It's not something I'm against. And I would love to talk to you boys about their interest in doing that. Honest to God, I feel my age. Like, I feel dumber and dumber when it comes to social media. Like, that new Blue Sky, I'm like,
I know, what is it?
I don't know.
I don't even know what
I'm
to
so
do.
awkward.
Oh my God, I have teenagers on set.
yeah.
I'll
So
send
it really,
Karen
it
your
does
way.
make a difference when you get to the point, and the algorithm, I mean, Cindy Beth does post 2 or 3 times a day. Now, and I know posting 2 or 3 times a day isn't always the way to do it, but we are actually, as part of a grant, we got from the Michigan Arts and Culture Council that $21,000, there is money for us to do some training on social media. And we are going to be doing that in the next couple of months. And trying to get ourselves a little bit more skilled in how do you fight that algorithm that just shoots you out? I see the same stuff all the time, and I'm like, how do we get in that without having to pay for it?
Well, yeah, you have to pay for that. That's the problem. I've been involved in buying it and whatever.
Yeah.
One thing that doesn't take any training, I think the website was recently updated a little bit, but prior to, for a long time, there was a lot of stuff lacking. Even now, if you go to the city's website and you click on the Playhouse button, it says this site cannot be accessed.
Okay, and I will tell you what, I actually just got that from one of our folks that are here, that he said it's still showing up as the Howmet Playhouse. The reason and I bet Brenda didn't know that, because Howmet Playhouse is a domain we no longer own. we held on to it for 5 years after the renovation. So now everything has to be recoded, and I probably didn't even think about it going from the city website to the non-existent world. I put an email already out to Brenda on that.
Okay, and another thing, if you go to About Us
Mhm.
and click on financial statements, it brings up,
And the city page.
no, on the Playhouse site,
Oh, you know,
it brings up financial statements from 2011, 2012, and
Yep.
2013.
I would have that whole thing taken down because the reason that's on there, thank you for telling me that. I need to make a note, take down. And those are annual reports. Because we are owned by the municipality, we discovered we don't have to actually do those ourselves because we have the audit. And so what should happen is that little audit page could be just stuck up on our Playhouse page. Thank you for telling me that. And apparently I don't.
I think, yeah, just the transparency of what you gave us here, because it seems like there was that transparency before when you did your own annual report.
Yeah.
Would be helpful of, people that have a lot of time, read through that and see where like, okay, we could do more here or there, whatever. You just shared that. I think there was questions at the city council meeting regarding the financials, and I think that's what brought a lot of us here, is how did we get here? So if we could have those questions answered ahead of time, then maybe our suggestions or our goals moving forward as a group could be more focused on how to remedy it. But we didn't have any of this until today, so it's just kind of like, where do we start,
Did you guys get this last week?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sunday.
Okay, oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, I was prepared. Thought, oh, maybe you need to go. Kara, Steve, anybody else want to add anything for the good of the discussion at this point?
Since you brought up the Playhouse website,
Yeah.
I find it difficult to navigate.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I would like to see, when I call that up, the first thing that comes up is, like you have here, this is the coming events. That's what, for the most part, that's what people, I believe, when they go to the Playhouse, they want to know, when's that concert? Or who's coming up? And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's told you that the website is difficult.
Okay.
It's
Um,
great.
Yeah.
Who
So-
maintains that website?
So we have a volunteer,
Okay.
and he has done it for probably close to 20 years.
Okay.
So we're very grateful for that, because it doesn't cost us anything, which is, having a web person and a web development person to maintain that is very expensive. I will talk to Bill again about, is there something else we can do? And I agree that it is very wordy, and we've worked on some other options and things like that, but I don't know where that will be, in fairness. So.
But even something that's easy, maybe he could just do a landing page, like when you first, like bam, it's just right there. And then even if the rest of it remained relatively cumbersome, that information would be super easy.
Do you know when you Google the Playhouse or events in White Lake, is there a link to your Facebook page? I know Facebook is much more user-friendly for someone when you go on and you can hit the events tab and then all of your events pop up.
At the
Is that-
bottom of their website, they have a link to Facebook.
But if you Google it, if you Google the Playhouse, will it link to their Facebook? I have teenagers that are for me.
So Google,
So you can go into Google if you have access, if you go on your Google
Yeah.
account, you can go in there and you can put a link to your Facebook page and that will take them right to your Facebook page. And until you can get the website updated, you can have all of your events on your event tab on your Facebook page. All of those can be listed, and then there can be a link obviously inside of your events that they can then buy tickets. That's a quick fix for
that would
that
be,
is-
yeah.
and it's free.
I like that. Thank you. Those are good suggestions. Really good suggestions. Like I said, I started looking at this stuff and I go, oh God, don't make me learn that. Kara, do you have anything you'd like to add for the good of the meeting?
Not at this time.
Nothing right now?
Probably cost more than anybody.
That's all right. How about you, Amanda? You've got some good ideas.
Yeah, so I'd be interested in heading those up voluntarily and
I'm sorry, back up, adding what up?
heading it up. Like,
Oh.
I would happily put on the event, like, for the first few weeks.
Okay.
I'm looking at the schedule now. I've run big events before, so I can speak to you about that, but doing something like a game night where people can come in and it's relatively inexpensive, and I'm sure I can find a husband of mine that would create the props for us, so the overhead would be zero, and you all that are sitting here will be here.
You will be invited.
Yes, and it would just be
Can I
like,
say that about our event too? All
Yeah.
sitting here will be.
Yes,
please come.
but, you know, like,
Next weekend, Saturday.
that's why I wanted to be on this committee, because that's my expertise, is creating fun times and events, and I knew that I could help with that, so if that's something that we
Yeah,
can work on
let's talk
together.
about it after this.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Anything for you, Ms. Kara?
Just thank you for being here.
Thank you all for being here.
I do have something that I'd just like to throw out, and I don't know how that would fit into this. It occurs to me that our cities are here because of the logging industry and all that, and that is not spoken about. I mean, we've got the museum over in Montague and stuff, but I don't know if that's a topic that you could work with or something that, it seems to me that there's a lot of people that are interested in the local history, but outside of going to the museum or buying that one book,
What would you like to see happening with
that's
that?
what I'm not sure. I'd like the cities to do something around that, and maybe it can start out here somehow, I don't know.
Like an annual event or something, like
Yeah.
Logging days.
History Day, yeah. No,
wanna
people
do
get into this kind of
Oh,
stuff,
I know.
where you can have like, oh yeah, axe throwing, the whole thing.
Like the history cruise?
Yeah.
There
History
there
is awesome.
definitely is potential to put more events together that
Yeah.
harp on our
I
history.
mean, I'm a huge history nerd, so I love all of that. I mean, you know, having it be like, you know, a whole history.
I'm dressed up as lumber.
Yeah.
We did,
And the lumberjacks.
we used to do that here, is had a walking
They're back to
tour.
the lumberjacks.
Kim Harsh, who is an actor who's now lives in Florida, she dressed up and she was one of the women, she was the lavender lady, and she gave a whole history of the Playhouse, and then they went to the next place, and it was basically like talking, you know, spoken history.
They do that in like St. Augustine, like they do walking tours like
That's a
that where
cool
you
idea.
drink and you go to different places and they give you history, and you also look for ghosts.
Oh,
They do
okay.
that in Savannah.
Say less.
So I want to piggyback a little bit on what you were saying. I think really what we need.
Yes, those walking tours, but everybody does
We
that.
need local, we need local.
Local community.
seats. We need people that live in this community to come and support, and be here for our events. How do we get the word out? How do we get you guys that came here for meeting day? How do we get our community, our neighbors to come here
Yeah.
and take part into this beautiful
People-
playhouse?
The SIPs was huge. I've heard such great things, and people are looking for more of those.
Thank you.
More fun events that really don't have anything to do with a play.
I mean,
Use this space however you need to get people in here. It doesn't have to be sitting and watching. It can be interactive.
I hope the passion from this meeting, I hope this helps generate people.
Yeah.
There's
To
so
be
many
excited
All,
events.
yeah.
Like for Valentine's Day, and this is back in December. You should have like a Taylor Swift night for girls. Do you understand how much
Yeah,
they would
that's
pay?
That would be cool.
With music and dress up, the girls dress up, make friendship bracelets, I make friendship garlands. Oh yeah, like activities. Moms and daughters would pay good money to come to a theme night like that. And it's not sitting down, you know, like you can have them do all different things. Use the space other than just what you have behind those doors. And I think with the SIPs, you're on the right track. Because there's just a lot of times when it's not booked, that we could be doing other things. And people just like coming together anyways in this community.
Agree. What does that take? What does that volunteer number look like for you? Because it is just, you're full-time. it is
Yeah,
full-time
I'm
employees,
usually
just
one year
part-time.
running most events, you know, anywhere between 5 and 8 people.
Do you have a good volunteer?
We have a
pool?
decent volunteer base, we could always use more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and it, you know, it takes, you know, we come in and we do volunteer training and we teach people about the different areas where they can volunteer as an usher or helping out selling tickets or box office, you know, and or doing concessions, and we've had people trained to be able to serve alcohol and things like that, and that's hugely helpful.
The high schools are always looking for volunteer hours too. The high school kids, seniors and juniors, they could easily be doing some of these usher things. Yes, and have you write off on there. So talking to the senior or the council
Who's the volunteer coordinator?
Guidance counselor.
Ellie Dennis. Yeah, Ellie Dennis is still our volunteer coordinator. Cindy Buck has taken out a lot of it, just because it's computer-based and, you know, it's not always, she was struggling a little bit with that. And we've changed our programming that we're using, so, but we have, you know, if anybody's interested in being a volunteer, we can send out a link to, hey, I'm interested in volunteering here, here, and here. Actually, a gentleman, Brant Newtown, he loves the theater. He's so excited. He's looking for volunteer opportunities as a newly retired person. He came and set all of this up for us. He's going to come back and help me take it down. And so, I mean, sometimes it's those kinds of things that may not be huge projects, but he's fixing our stage that we're having an issue with. He's going to reorganize my tool crib. He's like, I was in the Army, can I please He was looking at it going, can I please reorganize this? I said, please, do not feel bad.
This is love language.
Yeah,
Reorganize.
absolutely. So, I mean, we have lots of folks who are willing to spend the time, you know, and a lot of people out here spend time here volunteering, so. Yeah. Yep.
An idea that I had is, the Walk the Beat was so popular.
It's wonderful.
And next door, there was a group that, they did jazz.
They were great.
They're
They
from
were
Grand
awesome.
Rapids.
Mhm.
And it just got me thinking, like, and I think, didn't people vote on what their favorite acts were?
I think, yes, they do.
So I wondered if after the fact, what about trying to bring those musical, even if it was a night with two of them or something, and I have no idea what you have to pay groups and so all of that, I'm sure. But like that particular one, I know there are a lot of people like, wow, where do they play? Like, where could we hear them?
That's a
And,
really
like,
great
why
thought.
not right here as an addition?
Like, hey, after the beat, come on back in you know,
Like
September, October, and that's a great idea.
It was Solomon Johnson.
Thank you. I could not remember his name. They were lovely.
Is that the ones that,
Yes.
yes.
Previous year,
AS
they played at Eagles.
Yeah, I actually,
Memo.
and I actually know someone that's helping to promote them, not trying to promote them in particular, but I was just, you know, it made me think about it because I'm like, I just heard so many good, and I enjoyed it, but I heard so many good
they
things,
were
and I'm
wonderful.
sure there were others that got a lot of attention too, and then just kind of play off what's already happening.
I love
in the
that.
community.
That's a really, I had never even occurred to me. So that's a really good thought. I like it. Anything else at this point for this group?
I guess my
Oh, yeah, please.
question is, since, are we going to then maybe at the next meeting, in the next second or third, get more into like, what are we gonna do about the short?
I think that's kind of the plan.
Because I think there's a lot of great long-term ideas, and actually, as I was
Like, what's
looking
the
at stuff, I'm
suggestion?
like, in my
When
mind.
is our next meeting?
I think we have to decide that.
Okay, because if the SIPs could be before that, that's how you remedy a lot of the deficit, because it's down to 65 now. So I think we should do.
Well, we made 4,000, so that was awesome.
Right, but that should be the next one, because the next one should be bigger than the first, and then we can meet after and see how well.
Well, I'm going to push all the restaurant owners to push it.
So I think meeting after, you
Yes,
get those
I agree.
financials, because then we can reflect that.
Because you have to.
Are these the types of events that we need to explore?
And how quickly are we trying to bridge the shortfall? How quickly do we need to bridge the shortfall?
That's a good question.
Are you defaulting?
Stop it right now.
Okay, so the next one is February 22nd for the SIPs, and whenever you want to meet again for this.
Let's take a look at calendars. And then we will have opportunity for public comment. We're not finishing up here, we're just looking at what's next. I don't know.
When will Frank be available? Do we have that?
I don't have when Frank is available. You know what? Would it be okay with all of you if we just send out another poll saying, hey, to include you guys, and we'll have Brenda do that, and then we can set up a time, and then we'll just announce it to the community if they want to come back and have it.
Try to make it as soon as we can. maybe
Okay,
2 weeks.
in 2 weeks. That would be like the 27th of, right now that is open for me. Shall we tentatively set it for the 27th at the same time?
Because then we can at least look over the financials from this last SIPs. and see if that's being productive, because I think we can make a good push of it this next week
Yeah,
to get more people here.
And I asked
Use
that all of you
pictures from the
share,
last
yeah,
one.
Yeah,
I'll ask you guys all share on your
Invite
personal
people,
Facebook
yeah,
versus please,
because-
social media.
She had questions from people of what it was, so if you guys have those pictures
Yeah.
from the last one.
And I'll put out there that I don't wanna say it's all you can eat, but I mean, we'll find a different verbiage.
Yeah.
Well, maybe like, you know, you get a ticket when you come in or something like.
Oh, I don't think any of us minded, anybody,
No.
that food that came in the door, we donated and we did.
They
one of the
donated
tasks, yeah.
everything, and all of the profits went to the Playhouse. It was amazing.
But I liked what you said, people didn't know what they were walking into, your husband didn't, you know, they didn't know, am I gonna get 4 ounces of soup, am I gonna be hungry, do I need to eat dinner first?
And this next one is a desserts thing, and somebody suggested we should have an insulin tent. So, and my husband is a pharmacist, so maybe he can help us out. It's 4 to 7, so the nice thing is it's 4 to 7, so, and there's going to be, Stephen Thielman, who plays piano over at the Book Nook, will be here playing piano all evening, all afternoon and into the evening. But yeah, it's 4 to 7, so it's really nice. You can come early and you can get home before it's dark, which I really love.
You have champagne that night, so I think I'm really gonna market that will make up.
You wanna have some, definitely.
Yes, I wanna have some champagne here for people, and the desserts and piano music, put the lights down a little bit.
Lights
Yeah.
down just a skosh of one.
Did you just say you were gonna donate fruit for the champagne?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
I'm gonna sit by her next time too.
I would throw out the idea that there should be a beer tasting. You know, there's so many local breweries and you could bring some in
That's
from
where,
a
yeah,
little
I think these
further out.
events will get bigger as they go on.
I think that would be a sure winner.
They do a similar event at the art museum in March, I believe.
What's it called? Beers and cheer? No.
Brushes and brushes.
Brushes and, no, it's at the art museum.
Somebody does brushes and
Beer
brushes.
tasting.
People just want the beer though, they don't want the brush, so. Bring the beer
I
and.
mean,
But that-
I want to paint after I've been having some beers. You see how green that is? It's a Jackson Pollock.
It's something, it is something, it is.
That would be easy to set up.
That's super easy. We have to check the licensing with that though, with those,
Oh,
like, if they
yes.
have
They call it uncapped.
Playhouse does.
Okay, so we have our license, but I think if the Friends were to host it, we could get a special one-day only license, and then everybody can bring their stuff. I think that's how.
Why don't you check into the NLCC website, the LARA website, and see, because he's right, that would be a really quick and easy, and, I mean, I gotta be honest with you, people don't like to spend their time in the pub, it's much better to come here and have a beer than to go sit in.
MLC, would you call it?
NLCC.
MLCC.
Dot
Thank
gov.
you. I call it Lara. Okay.
Small glasses though.
Yeah.
You get like the little things that you get like some of the churches.
They
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we're taking,
Communion.
yeah, thank
Beer
you.
communion, Sundays.
Anything else at this point? And I love the ideas. If in between now and the 27th of February, if you come up with other ideas, or if you want to say, hey, I want to flesh this out a little bit more, please just email that to me. You all have my email. And we'll start a file and we'll see where we can start plugging things in. We do have currently, I think it was 22 events between now and June 28th, which is a lot for us. As part of the strategic plan, we were going to grow number of event days. And part of that is awesome, but we also have to have more staff. And that's not impossible. We do hire house managers and things like that on occasion when I can't be here, or I've already worked 3 events that week. But that's something to consider, is that there has to be they're great ideas and wonderful, but there has to be a balance. Like, how much can Cindy, Beth, and I do?
That's where I'm thinking the college student that is doing their internship there.
But you have to be at every event as
There
well,
has to be a
you're
manager.
there's somebody, there has to be
Yes, it has to be me
manager.
or Cindy,
But
Beth. We have like 2
prior to
other
that,
people.
that working event,
Yeah.
creating all of the,
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
yeah.
get it off of her, so
Yeah.
she's not doing both, and
Yeah.
she's here to oversee.
Yep, which would be great.
Think how hard it would be to get college kids in on that beer thing.
Say yes. No, you're working. Yeah. Wait till
It's
after.
working.
I'll go buy you a beer at the pub. So to bet. Anything else for the folks at the table right now, Lori? Do you have anything to add? Brooke? Anybody? Bueller? Awesome. So we would like to open it up to public comment. Anybody who would like to share your thoughts, ideas, concerns, questions, anything? Anybody? Anybody? Hey.
Good evening. Is Eli?
He is supposed to be on the committee, but he's not back till April, so we're hoping that we're meeting long enough to include him, because he has a lot of valuable
Yeah, for
insight.
those that don't know him, he'd be a huge addition.
Yeah,
With Tifa being mentioned earlier, is that a possibility that could fall under Tifa? No possibility?
They're not in the TIFA zone, but there is a possibility, like Scott said, TIFA doing some kind of sponsorship. So
Like they did for Walk.
there's a possibility of TIFA money.
Okay.
they're within both TIFA, which is the downtown tax base, and then LDFA, which is the industrial park tax base. Within both of those, authorities, they're not, are they authorities? Wow, pull that out. There is an opportunity for, marketing fund support, which is how we've gotten money from the LDFA before, and Scott is looking into that with, the attorney to see if that is a possibility as well for some support.
I'm sure it's probably really been looked at in the past, but is any type of a partnership with the Fruenthal Theater part of the discussion?
No.
We're struggling as well.
Yeah, they're struggling as well. But it's a great idea. I mean, we do partner in like joint marketing and things like that. We do share information in between, but a financial, probably not.
And just an FYI, the bands that played in Walk the Beat were mentioned. We paid them $300 because with 4,500 people in attendance, they received great exposure. We also hired them to play at a private neighborhood party, and it's $2,000.
That's awesome.
That was for Samuel Johnson that played at the Lewis House. Just a couple of comments. I love the Tom Petty music event that was held here. I'd like to see more of them. And now that I'm no longer running Walk the Beat, I got a life again. And so
I got some work for you.
yeah, I was going to say I want to volunteer again. And then when I moved to this community 5 years ago, I got to admit, the first time I drove down Mears and all the lights were on and the cars were lining the street and people were coming and going, I was just really impressed, and it gave me a real feel good for this community. And having run Walk the Beat a couple of years and the impact on the businesses in this community, I also recognize that when the Playhouse is being attended, and all these people either before or after are going to restaurants and bars and other businesses buying gas, whatever. So there's obviously an economic boom for the area when this happens. I personally think that if we're looking at a $35,000 annual subsidy, that's acceptable to me. Where I come from is, like you take the money we're putting into the pocket park. I may go down there someday, it said I may not, but I love the fact that it's being done and it's adding to our community. Same way with Splash Pad. I don't go down there and run through the water, but I love the fact that it's done. And so I'm paying taxes, like we all are paying taxes, for a lot of things that for myself, I'm not using, but I love the fact that they're there. And so if I had to raise my hand and say, the one place I'd like my tax money to go is the Playhouse. So I think that for what this Playhouse does for the community, whatever we could do to promote it, save it, make it financially viable is great. And I really appreciate the time that all of you are putting into this committee to help make that happen.
So, Kevin, in May and June, the council will be looking at the budget for the next year, and that is definitely a subject for discussion.
Okay.
That the city would do that. There's a pot of money that the council decides where that money is spent.
Okay.
So, thank you for your input.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Molly's back. Oh, sorry, I'll get right back to you, Scott. Sorry. Oh, Scott, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
It doesn't matter to me. Go ahead.
We're also polite.
I'm just gonna read what I got written down here, so, I'd like to start off by saying I wanted to be on this committee, and the rest of the city council wanted me to be on this committee, that the mayor wouldn't allow me to be on it because I didn't share the views of how the Playhouse is operated at the present time. On the same subject, I don't feel the committee of the people that are Playhouse supporters is an objective committee to solve the immediate financial needs of the Playhouse. The reason we form a committee like this is so there is differing opinions, so all aspects are looked at to solve the problem. Lastly, about committees, I don't feel there should be anybody on this committee that isn't a resident of the City of Whitehall, since the reason we are here is to solve the large deficit in the Playhouse budget. And short of donations or grants, it's the taxpayers of the city that are footing the bill, not anyone else. I don't care what Montague or any other outlying township thinks, unless they are willing to contribute to the operation of the Playhouse. I've always believed the financial difficulties of the Playhouse are twofold. One being the geographic area we live in does not have the demographics to support the type of venue as a full-time 12-month-a-year operation. The other is poor management as far as financials go. I'm not saying the manager isn't passionate about what she does and isn't caring for the arts and the history of the Playhouse, but there is obviously a problem understanding finances. You have a budget and 5 months into it, you're already $70,000 in the red. You can't spend more money than you have, which is why we are here. I had a couple other examples of what I feel are poor management things. One was the quick link on the city website that, it's just a management oversight. It shouldn't be taken into an error link. Sorry, I'm as nervous and shaking as I am.
You're okay.
I don't like being in front of people. Trying to figure out where it was at. Well,
You said about the website needing to be updated, that link, that's a bad link.
Yep. And unless something has changed in the past couple of weeks, call the Playhouse phone number, you'll get a message saying the mailbox is full. It was that way in October, and it's been that way since through January, unless it's been fixed in the last few weeks. That's
Did
just
you call here, this number?
the number that's listed on the Playhouse website.
That's weird, because it just,
I've
okay,
had
thank you.
numerous constituents in the city ask me why you can't get a hold of anybody at the Playhouse.
I can have a recording.
Back to where I'm at, I believe as far back as I referenced, in 2017, there's only been 1 year the Playhouse was self-sufficient, and that was by just under $3,000. That's the figures that I have. And those are the figures that I got from the city budget. I've been in business for 30 years in this city, and I can tell you if my business only made money 7 out of 8 years, I would not be in business. Again, you can't spend money you don't have. I feel the Playhouse manager's salary and benefits are exorbitant for what we are getting in return. And the assistant's job should be one of a contract employee with no benefits. I hear all the hoopla about it being the arts and what it does for the kids and how it benefits the community, etc., etc. I'm sorry I was elected by the taxpayers of the city to make sure wise decisions are being made with their tax dollars and loaning any kind of money to a venture that is not self-sufficient or a necessity, like roads and water, sewers, DPW, or police, just doesn't work. Advocating the best bang for the buck is my job, and without major reforms being made in the management of the Playhouse and with accountability for failure, or without any accountability for failure, I'm not in favor of using any further tax dollars above what the present budget is. We all need to live within our means. I can assure that these are not just my views, but the views of dozens and dozens of local taxpayers. And I listen to the meeting while we were here. No one has addressed anything on how we got to where we're at or how to resolve the immediate shortfall, which was supposed to be what the committee was for in the first place, and then look at the long-term stuff. You've looked at a lot of long-term stuff, but you haven't done anything to say how you're gonna address the shortfall that we're at right now and how we even got to it. Thanks for letting me speak.
Sure. Thank you. Hey, Tom Spencer.
I don't talk very loud. I think what's happening is a very fine thing, and I think it should be aimed only at one reason, and that's to make this facility work. I've been involved, I tried to nail down the date, but probably 2007, 2008, my wife and I have been involved. We got invited to be involved by the mayor and his wife. The initial visit wasn't very good, but it worked out to where we're at. I brought Frank in and we raised enough money to do this. And I don't want to start a fight, but when you say Whitehall's money, this isn't Whitehall's money. This is the money from the Muskegon County community. The village of Whitehall has a very small investment in this, in putting this here. 80% of it is outside, all the way to Grand Rapids, all the way to Manistee. And that's a good thing. This theater, as it presently stands, I haven't heard one person come in here, an actor, a visitor, that have been in other small community playhouses that don't say, wow, this is unique. This is a unique thing that this community has. The problem is, and this is where I'm going to get in trouble, the problem is that we, over all the years that I've been involved, spend more time trying to find ways not to spend money than we do to do what is necessary. You got a building that several million, $4 million. Currently, as we stand, there's no money being set aside for maintenance. You know what it's going to look like 100 years from now? Just like it did before we did this. It doesn't make sense. We need to get excited about how to make this work and how to get the, if you don't like it, I understand that. But let's make it so you can like it. If you don't like the theater, go to, you know, there's lots of things that the community spends money on that we can all go to. You can put your boat in, you can take your boat out, you can, all of the parks, that's all. This operation has cost the city of Whitehall very, very, very little. And the return to their community over the years has been great. And the people who have restaurants and establishments in the community will tell you that. So you need to think about where you're going. And you need to think about how you're going to get there. And you need to get proud of this and proud to work for it and work for it. You know, it's a jewel in a wonderful city.
Thank you, Thomas.
Ditto to what you just said, and what you said. And I just want to thank you all for coming together and problem solving, because there's obviously the problem of the money that a lot of people, taxpayers, are upset about, and I'm just thrilled to see you guys all sitting there working together to solve the problem. And do the Viola Bray Trust that supports the AM show concerts, make a proposal to them for a gift.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I mean, because they support the art, so I just was thinking about that. Yeah, so I'll talk to you about that.
The Viola
How you
Fund.
can,
It's her great grandma's trust, and Molly is.
yeah, it supports the arts.
It supports all the arts, and they do
supported
things
the
for the
arts
Arts Council.
and so you
Molly's
guys,
I think good part of the
I've
arts.
seen others.
well, thank you guys for problem solving, and I foresee, you know, this problem going away. So I don't think the taxpayers need to worry.
I think that we've made good progress, and I think the fact that we've highlighted that it needs more focus on it and we need more help. There's so many people in this community that have strengths.
Yeah.
That, like putting events together, repairing things.
Yep.
Your friend that is going to help with the tools.
Yep.
That want to use their time. So it is really more about getting the word out of what you want us to do. And I think people would show up. Again, I'm happy to start doing some of these events and ideas that are low cost and getting people in here because they love this space and they want to come to it.
The whole thing that is, if, you know, it's been some good ideas. If we can get this used to the point where it's paying for itself, everybody will be happy. I know there's a lot of taxpayers that feel bad about it.
You okay? Need some water?
But if we can get it to where it's paying for itself, nobody will care.
Right.
And like Kevin said, I'm not opposed to a certain number every year that the city would pay for it. I don't know exactly what that number is, but I don't want to put that number in and then have to keep
Yeah, it could be a short
getting
term,
more and
few
more.
years.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, so here's, if I want to go back to public comment in just one moment. So here's the rub, right? Here's the rub, and this has been my experience for 11 years in being here. You know, going through a renovation, all of that, going through COVID, blah, 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 blah. The only thing that's going to make this better, two things, more money and more staff. You've got 1.5 people running a building and running a facility that's supposed to have 5 full-time people, according to the strategic plan that we have. So how do we fund that? How do we fund all of that? And when you have more people, you can divide things up and you can do more things. When you have 1.5 people, you're limited in the amounts of things that you can do, which will raise money. So that's the dichotomy that we're living in right now. And I understand everybody's position. If you don't come to the theater and you don't want to support it, I get it. I get why, that isn't your interest. But like Kevin said, I love that the pocket park's here, and I love that the splash pad, and I would actually pay money to see you running through that splash pad. But I think we all have those feelings about things that, but anyway, I would love to hear from you. I said cute haircut, Alex, I would love to hear from you as well.
I've worked with theater my entire life. I've run theaters, I've directed in theaters, I've fundraised for theaters, the Arts Council, and all those things. And the one thing I have learned over and over again is you have to spend money to make money. And that's how it works. And one of the things Beth just hit on, and which I was going to bring up, because I was on, he mentioned that a lot of the money is not necessarily from Whitehall. I don't live in Whitehall, but I worked on the committee that found the $4 million or whatever it was for this, and a lot of the donors were not from Whitehall City. The big donors were from other areas and outside the city limits. And they saw something in this that was positive for everyone. And the one thing that the strategic plan, because I was on the Friends when we did that, said, you gotta have staff. And if you don't have a full-time grant writer for something like this, then you're gonna drop the ball on it. And I've worked with enough theaters that have had full-time grant writers, and a lot of times those, I don't know what the legality is anymore, but a lot of times those grant writers are paid from the grants that they get, you know, a percentage of those grants. And I know what it takes to manage a theater, and Meth doesn't have time to do all the grant writing, all the programming you want. Oh, let's do this on this weekend, and let's do that. Somebody has to organize that. And somebody has to make sure that it's staffed, and somebody has to make sure it's clean, and somebody has to make sure it's, and 1.5 people doesn't cut it. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Alice. Oh, Chris, and then I'll get to you.
This is my theater home. I started here probably in the early 80s with Whitehall Civic Theater, the production of Homecoming, which is, John Boy, the original. So this is a passionate, place for me. I've worked in the arts and theater and nonprofit. I work with the Arts Council of White Lake. And so I think, again, one of the major things you have going is marketing. Because I look around, like when I'm on the websites, you can tell how an organization is doing by their website. We have a part-time marketing person over at the ACWL, and that's made all the difference. I see more marketing from there than I do from the Bronthal, than I do from most of the other arts organizations in the county. And so I think that would push a lot at getting you ahead and where you need to go. And I agree with Alice. And I'm willing to, volunteer and work here. I'll talk to you about that. I don't know your name at the end there. I want to talk with you about coming up with some ideas and working on stuff, because there's a lot of things. My question is, when you do have a fundraiser, we have to pay for the space.
So here's the thing, if it is technically yes. So what usually happens in the finance world is, say we made $4,000 in sips and soups. All of that $4,000 goes to the Playhouse, but you take, in accounting terms, $850 goes into operations, right?
Yeah.
And just covering that. So if you guys were working with me and saying, hey, we want to do this fundraiser, for the Playhouse, you're not going to have to come up with $850. We're just going to do the fundraiser, and then we'll take that money to put towards it. Just to clarify how
I didn't need the clarification. I'm just saying,
relationship works.
Yeah, I understand that part.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure, because sometimes it's confusing.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, it's not confusing, but also if you use theater lighting, it's more than if you just use the house lighting that you get for the event. So, another thing is, I'd like to see, and this is more long-term thing, I'd like to see some other smaller individual arts organizations, like performance art organizations, sort of make this a home. Not just friends of the theater, of the Playhouse.
So there's the White Lake Dramatic Club too.
There's White Lake Dramatic Club, but I'd like to see more of that and make that more accessible for, budding artists, even have some program with that as an idea. We'll see. I wrote a lot of notes. I think you guys are doing great. I know this has been a dramatic thing for Whitehall, but I've learned from dramatics in arts cultures and in nonprofit, it creates attention creates money. And so this is actually a good thing. I agree. A lot of us I don't live in Whitehall. I live in neighboring things. I'd like to, I don't know, how can us outside of Whitehall, contact, there's the back. They brought in monies from elsewhere. We're bringing monies from elsewhere. That's a question. I don't know. There's been a lot of drama over this. I don't think, to say the least. And I think
keep it on the stage, baby.
But no, it's a good thing though, and it's part of how we work with balance and stuff. And I'm glad you spoke.
I agree, because of this, now we have this board that
And
is coming together
I'm paying
to help.
attention. Yeah.
And we're getting more
Yeah, and I appreciate.
It's great.
I don't know you very well. I appreciate what you had to say, because it's true. It takes a balance of all of us to really think over the different dimensions of an issue.
Yep.
And there's probably more, but that's it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Kathy.
I've been around as long as you guys have been around. I've been through 3 different committees for this Playhouse, how to make it thrive. We've heard a lot of this before, we've been around. And two things that you cannot get away from, if you look and analyze, all that we found out is we need more staff here. You just can't run it on 1.5 people. You can, but this is what we get. And you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, how can you expect any difference? All of these ideas that we have are great, and I've been on many committees and we've tried to implement them and we've done all these things. You can't run an organization on volunteers. Tell me how many businesses you all come from that run on volunteers. They get sick, they get grandbabies, they have to go down to Florida for the winter, they have to do a number of things, and they're gone. They're gone.
Yeah.
And interns are great. I have worked and had interns all around, but they're limited in their capabilities. They need a lot of direction. More staff, permanent staff needs to run the interns, or somebody that knows, what they're
Well, that could be like an intern into position too, like if we're thinking long-term.
Yeah, but then again, we're talking about a position, right? And funding for a position. So it feels to me like we have built this Playhouse. We have had strategic plans. None of that has been followed exactly. And I feel like Beth has been trying to do this with one arm tied behind her back. And then she gets blamed because, not Beth personally, but the Playhouse, let's say that way, gets blamed because we're not being productive. So, I'd like to see a success. I've personally got, donations here in time and money, and I would put more in. And I don't think $35,000 is a heck of a lot of money to look at. Not in today's day. Anyway, that's just my input. Thank you for being here all again. Debbie.
So I'm Debbie Hillebrand. I live next door and I'm also a council member. I want to thank you guys all for being here and all of you guys for coming. I know that tension and drama was abound when we decided to put this committee together, and I know there was some anxiety about what do we expect, what are we going to do, what's it going to look like, how's it going to work. And I think it's a testament to the dedication, the passion, and the care that this community has for the theater. And so again, thank you all for being here. The ideas coming forward are, it's what we need. I think the passion shows, the dedication, and all of that. It's a good start. I want to see the theater thrive. I feel like time, money, effort, all of that has been donated, and happy to do more. I like the idea of putting out there what do we need, because the advertising and all of that stuff is really going to be helpful. So I look forward to what's coming next. I don't know, to Scott's point, I don't know how the money to make up the deficit is going to come. I mean, I know the citizens, maybe that money is already starting to flow into that bucket. I don't know. But I feel like we're on a good path, and more awareness is always going to help. So I'm excited. I feel lighthearted to see everybody coming together with such passion. Thank you all.
Anyone else for the floor? Oh, please.
Wasn't planning on saying something, but everybody else is.
What's your name?
Christina. So I moved up to Muskegon County 33 years ago. I can tell you right now, I had no idea what the Playhouse was until I moved to Whitehall and well after Whitehall, and I was told not to come here. I was told people in this community did not like it. I love some of the things that you guys are putting on. I've never seen anything on the internet that entices me and my 14-year-old daughter to come here. I think that can be improved. I like some of the suggestions, I really do. My parents have lived in the same town for 33 years, and I guarantee you if I asked them what the Playhouse was, they wouldn't know. The other thing is I used to work at that AFC home right there for a couple of years before I moved here, and we really disliked when they had events. It was a nightmare. The parking is a major problem. It is a serious thing that you guys need to look at. I think that deters people away too. I would sit out there with some of the residents while they smoke cigarettes. I do not smoke. But I sat out there with them, and I can tell you from what I saw, I did not see anybody coming from Piccadilly's, or however you say it, to here for events. So I'm just telling you what I saw. Days of events, we would sit out there, and we never saw anybody walking to there and back.
And when was this?
I'm still talking.
No, I just was asking a clarification. When was it that you worked down there? I'm just curious to know like what time frame you're talking about.
2018 to 2022.
That's fair. Thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify.
So I like the ideas that you guys have. I really do. I think that this committee is phenomenal. I see so many amazing people that I know in this community, and I am so excited to see what you guys have to offer. So I'm just telling you my opinion and what I've heard. I would like to come here with my daughter, and I would love to do some of this stuff, but there's never been anything offered that's interested us. The other thing too is, as far as the city, why not make suggestions on the ballot to vote for the people in the city of Whitehall to say if they want X amount of money to go towards the Playhouse. If people are very confident that this is what a majority of the residents of Whitehall want, or even the township, then put it to a vote and say every year they're going to contribute $10,000 or $5,000, and then right there you'll find out where the people in Whitehall stand, or even I don't know if you do the city of Muskegon County, or not the city, but the county of Muskegon. Right there would tell you exactly where people stand. So, anyways, now I'm just rambling, but those are my opinions. But I definitely like the ideas, but I definitely would like to hear, like Scott mentioned, how we got to this point. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, like, there's a problem and it needs to get addressed, and how it's going to get fixed. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I clarify one thing that she just said?
Yes, please.
I asked Mr. Huber at a council meeting probably 6 months ago about possibly doing what you just was talking about having a millage on an election to support, so the Playhouse had a support. It knew how much money it was going to have all the time. And he said you can't do it because it's an enterprise fund.
Oh, yeah, that actually clarifies that, and that's true.
I just
It got moved out of the enterprise
thought that
fund,
was an
yeah.
excellent way to figure out, the budget part,
Yeah.
the budget deficit part, that you can't do it.
I actually did not know that, but
That's what he said.
I did not know that was a thing.
Lori probably knows more about it than, or Brooke.
What's the problem?
As far as if that's right or not. But, I did suggest it, and he just said you can't do it.
Because it's the way it is, because it's not its own, it's not part of the thing in the budget, it's temporary. Anyone else before we, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you stand.
I'd like to say first, I could understand hardly anything you people said.
Oh.
With the heat going, and I'm hearing impaired.
I'm sorry, we should invite you up to the table.
Well, I would have thought you'd had some microphones or something set up. But anyhow, if I address something that's already been addressed, I apologize.
Okay.
But I don't think the city of Whitehall should own this place. What I'm hearing here, you guys are doing good, except for your $70,000 in the hole, that it should be a private enterprise. You're saying most of your funding comes from outside the county, outside the city. Why are the taxpayers being taxed for it? That's what I'm saying. Probably, what, an eighth of the people of the city of Whitehall use this place, and 100% are not paying for it. I don't think that's right.
Thank you. Any other comments for the good of the group?
I just want to clarify that I don't have any ill feelings towards the arts, or any ill feelings towards the Playhouse, or any ill feelings towards you. I'm a financial person. You know, my dad was an accountant for 60 years and was drummed into my brain. You know, it's all black and white is all I see.
Yep,
And,
I hear that.
You know, and get back at what one of the other gentlemen said, that the city has very little invested. The city might not have had as much of an investment into the renovation of this as what was done by donations. But the day-to-day operations of this place, the budget for last year on this place was approximately $375,000. And I don't know in anybody's eyes where that's not a substantial amount of money. You know, and that comes out of the city budget, which comes out of the general fund, which is taxpayer dollars.
No, actually, this is an enterprise fund. So it is funded, technically, obviously, we're in a hole right now, but in the past, we have to raise everything I raised. Everything that Cindy Beth and I raised through ticket sales, donations, sponsorships, grants, pays for my salary, my benefits, Cindy Beth's salary. She does not get any benefits as a half-time employee. Keeping the lights on, turning on the heat, that's all up to me to raise that money. We've been pretty successful at that for the most part up until now. This last year, this past 8 months have been really rough for the Playhouse. And there's a lot of different reasons. Things have gone up in price. And there's a lot of other things I could tell you why that contributes to it. And we have lost donors, we have lost sponsorships, literally lost donors because they passed away. And so that's really how this works, is that as an enterprise fund, just like sewer and water is an enterprise fund, just like, what else is a sewer? Or is it, the marina is an enterprise fund. It is supposed to be self-sustaining. That's how it was established back in 2006. Now, is that still reasonable to expect after almost 20 years and after creating, adding 7,000 square feet to a building, that to expect that those terms to stay the same when the needs have changed? So that's how this works, is that we are not funded by tax dollars, right? Residential tax dollars. In the past, we have gotten support from the LDFA, which is the Industrial Park Tax Base, because there's money for promoting and marketing the city. And that's kind of where the tax money has come from. It is not it's not actually funded by the residents at all. It does not come from residential tax dollars.
Well, I think some of it does, at least when we're in behind, but.
Being behind maybe, but not in general.
Brooke, you could clarify this probably. When the
Spotlight.
When the bond was set up initially, even in the bond, it was expected the city was going to be paying some of the money.
The city made a donation.
The city made a $550,000 donation that came from the LDFA.
Okay.
That was the city's contribution to the entire project. And then the rest of the $368.
But that by itself, coming from the LDFA, is still city money.
It is city money, but I want to make sure that there's a difference between residential tax dollars and business tax dollars, or tax base from the industrial park versus tax base from Tifa, which is the downtown. I just want to make sure that's as clear as mud for people, because there is a misconception on how this is funded. And up to this time, we've done pretty well. I mean, I think last year we made $813. Woo, yes. But at least we were in black. And this year's just been rough. It's just rough. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, hey.
Yeah. I don't go to a lot of things here, but I do want to say that as far as, I did go to a Tommy Foster music event here. Probably one of the best things I've ever heard.
That's awesome.
Being my age, I've gone to a lot of concerts.
Yeah.
The only place that can compare acoustic-wise is probably the Detroit Theater, which I've been to.
That's nice to hear that.
Things there, and that's, of course, a lot bigger place, but it was, my wife and I still talk about that.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Wait, Tommy.
But I don't think he's been here since, has he?
Yeah, he plays here on occasion, and actually he's got a show coming up. If you want to grab our upcoming events, there's right here, Tommy and Justin Abdecker have 2 shows coming up here at the Playhouse in the next couple of months. So, yeah. And we're gonna be doing some more pub nights and things here, and so, yeah, it should be
I
fun.
guess I should speak then.
I'm
sorry, Regina.
You're fine.
I want to share just a quick personal story. 50 years ago, in 1975, I was bused from Whitehall, my 3rd grade class, to Playhouse. We got a tour. I don't know if it was How Met at that time in 75.
Yeah,
it was 2 years after the old
renovation.
carpet, the renovation then, with the Spring Lake Holiday Inn carpet.
Yep.
Which is manufactured by the Bigelow Carpet Company on the East Coast. And I took some of those pieces, and I still use those when we play outdoors and
so fun.
on stage here. So I've caught them and seen it. Irrespective of that, I was 8 years old. They were getting us out on the bus, all the kids, and I was tucked around that back corner, like where the men's room used to be.
Yeah.
And I was at the drinking fountain because I've been diabetic for 51 years, so type 1. And so my blood sugar's elevated, I'm drinking a lot of water. And then I look down, my shoe's untied, I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm like, oh crap. And they're running out to the bus, I gotta tie my shoe because my mom tells me tie your shoe so you don't fall on the concrete. And at that time, the Playhouse steps were horrible. I mean, it was stucco and,
Oh, God, yeah.
but I mean, I didn't know that. But I was just worried, because my mom's voice raised mine. So I bend down and tie my shoe like this. And it's taking me a second because I'm not, I get my left arm to be ambidextrous, but I don't do very well with the hands at that point. And when I come out, the bus is pulling away.
Oh, no.
3rd grade. We lived a mile down the road. And I was like, well, what do I do? Because there's nobody here. Like the whoever was taking us through had shut the door and had gone on too. It's just like so I was sitting alone in this building. At 8 years old, going, what do I do? And so I just said, well, it's probably close to school, and I walked home, and my mom was at home, and she taught violin lessons to Fritz Stanzel's daughter from Blue Lake. So I grew up with a bunch of squawky violins in my house. But all of this stuff here, and then the school called in a panic. And I just think if that were to happen today,
oh my God,
the litigation would be
They all have phones.
and the liability and everything. And so I got lucky. I walked home and walked home safely. So, but the impression that I get from this building is I really enjoy being here. And I will do whatever I can in the capacities that I have to give. And I appreciate all the input and concern and the raising of red flags and the worries about it, because it does. I think Chris said, and thanks Scott for your comments and your thoughts about it. I worked as an auditor for 3 years too, and I'm a numbers guy too, but on the other side of my brain there's this, stuff is there are gray areas and there are black and white areas. So I hope a balance comes out of it, and I don't want to keep going to these meetings because I got other stuff to do. But I appreciate everybody.
Tommy, do you want to go to Natalie Heifer and get a burger?
I have some.
Just get a great help. He already here today.
Regina. Thanks, Tom.
I just want to say, again, thank you to everyone trying to help us solve the situation. Being from a little bit of an outsider, I would say you're so close. You're so close. You have, and you've gone like, oh my gosh, I don't know how far. My first performance in this building was in 1994, 10 times. Brian Engler was the manager. And let me tell you, I performed in a lot of places. I performed in Europe. I performed all over Kalamazoo, Michigan, at Beardsley here, the Frauenthal. I've directed shows at Reese Puffer High School, the auditorium there. And this is a gem. I tell you, in 1994, it was a dump. And I mean that wholeheartedly. We did our performance. You could, in the dressing rooms, you could not sneak. You had to get the other actors up so you could get to your spot. There was not any room to go to the toilet. The toilet, you sat down and the toilet was like this.
And you had to sit sideways.
And you had to sit sideways. And, if you're trying to get your hands clean, God bless you. So just taking a moment, I know it sounds like it's been a really hard year. But take a look at where you've come from and what you have, the things that have been given to this community. We talked about 80% that has been given in donations to create and make this place. Don't forget to smell those roses. And then, to keep it going forward, being a public school teacher, and trying to tell kids to never set their backpacks on a piano, ever, right? And teach those kids that keep coming through the door to stop doing things that destroy the room. You're going to have this place used, which is what you want. It's going to get worn down. So there are things that you have to have in place, and it sounds like you have a strategic plan that really needs to come to fruition. So you end up here every year, and you have people who can actually develop the things, the shows you want for your 14-year-old daughter, the artists that come in. By the way, an artist who came into the area, brought her friend who performs in Chicago, was flabbergasted when she saw our performance of Nonsense. And by the way, every night we performed, I heard people say, oh my gosh, so where are you guys touring next?
Yeah.
That show was a local show from your local artists here. And that show happened here because this is an amazing facility and attracts other artists that want to perform in an amazing facility. You have that here. Now to keep that, that is the quest. Can you have some kind of line item that Miss Beth isn't having to worry about or beg for every year, or look up for grants, or go to Fruitland Township and ask her rich friends over there to spend money here? You know what I'm saying? Can you figure out how to have that line item, and you're talking $35,000? That's nothing to run a theater. It's nothing. But can you come up with that $35,000 and have that be that bank in place? And can you come up with a maintenance fund? Do you understand? I'm sorry, Beth. I told Beth not to take things personally today, but I am. Do you understand this is a job, and the person that is heading this up and the person that helped you raise the funds from $4 million, you are breaking her. And I don't mean you, I mean everything that's going on here. You can tell I'm a drunk actor. There are limits to people and what they can do. I love the problem solving, but you have to add those other 5 staff. Because you cannot add any more to the 1.5 that Beth and City Beth make up. They're already cleaning the toilets. They're already vacuuming the floors. They're already her 8-year-old grandchild after a show with a leaf blower cleaning the house. Her 8-year-old son. It's ridiculous that there is not maintenance staff here. That frees her up to get better programming in here, better artists in here that her 14-year-old daughter is interested in. Those are the things that I will say need to happen here, but could happen here. In this gem of a facility. And you have gem of people volunteering every year. They want those things. Your community wants those things. You could have those things. You're so close. Finish with your strategic plan, and you could have that. And you could have that for 100 more years. It's been a delight to perform on that stage. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'd like to still do that until I'm like 80 years old. Okay, I can do that.
How about next summer?
Yeah, and I'll do that for you next summer.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Tom, you have one last thing?
Yep. I'd just like to, I want to sound like an advertisement. This building is a $4 million gift to the city of Whitehall. You raised if I remember right, 500,000?
550,000 from the city.
The rest of it is from the community as a gift to this town and this area. I think that is in and of itself worth working to save. And I guarantee if something isn't done in a very positive way, 50 years from now, this will be just like the old one was. Patch it here, patch it there. We had something that wasn't done right on the roof. And it almost started a fire.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
They had no money in the budget to fix it. Now it got fixed. But that's not a way to run a place. You've got to get excited about it, and you've got to want to make it work. And whatever I can do to help you with that, I'd be happy to do.
Thanks, Tom. Anybody else for last comments? I know Mayor
I have a
Pete.
question.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question for Tom. I might have misunderstood this, but wasn't maybe a month ago at the city council meeting, they were talking about raising another $100,000 out of the city budget?
Yes.
To put here to get this place out of the hole.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's taxpayer dollar.
Yes.
As it turns out, what had been $70,000 in the hole is down to 65 or somewhere around there. It's about the same place it was.
76,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still say, if we had done that loan without some major change, the loan wouldn't have got paid back, is my feeling. Putting this group together and coming up with some ideas and getting to the point where we can have more events and bring in more money and stuff. You know, I want it to work out, but I don't want it to work out. You know, we forgave us, how big was that loan that was forgiven a few years ago?
For the boiler?
Yeah.
83,000.
83,000. You know.
That's well before my time.
Right, but we gave away a bunch of money before on the loan. I don't want to do a loan again. If we're having trouble making the numbers now, what's it gonna be like in a year from now when we have a 10% payment on with interest on a $100,000 loan?
That's not the best, I mean, it's a stopgap measure for sure. But is it actually feasible and the best thing moving forward for the theater? Probably not.
And I'm getting late for something, I gotta go, but the other thing I'll say is that the city manager brought up the marijuana money. Well, there's no reason why that money why anybody should have assumed that money should go to the theater. As it turns out, we redirected that money, and if we follow the plan, all the sidewalks in the city are supposed to be corrected and finished by June of this year. You know, and I think that was a better use of the money because it benefits more people. It doesn't mean that I'm opposed to the theater. We need to get this kind of thing, we need to have this kind of urgency involved in making things happen. So that the people of the city, the taxpayers of the city, don't have a reason to complain.
There does seem to be a communication issue though, in like what I'm hearing, and I've watched the city council meetings as well from home on Zoom, I feel like there's an assumption, at least from part of the community, that the city is already subsidizing.
Yeah.
And that their tax dollars are going towards. What I'm hearing is that is not the case. That
as a rule,
as a rule, that's not the case. There's a shortfall. They were asking the city for money. The city has not given money at this point. So, and we are working now, as you said, as a committee to come up with reasons. But I think that communication issue is an issue in the community with certain, I'm not saying everyone.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm even hearing people that have been at the council meetings or maybe even on the council saying things that they maybe don't, or my assumption from what I'm hearing is there's some confusion even there. And if there's confusion with
The fact that it came out in the meeting that the city manager wanted a $100,000 loan to bail out the Playhouse, that'll put a lot of people on edge. And that will give them the assumption that, you know, and plus, like I say, plus the fact they had forgiven loans in the past.
well, it sounds like one.
One.
So
right.
I guess that's what I'm saying is there's a communication issue.
Could the
Where
city council communicate to the taxpayers what is actually
Exactly
going on?
is
And I think,
happening.
I don't know if that's something you know, or maybe that's.
I think we talked about transparency on the website more, so we can direct people there if
Right.
they have questions. So maybe that's just
Although
something we
even
can
on
work
that, not to be, but like when I look at the financials, I mean, I came from a business background, but I'm not from a municipal.
There's a two pages.
There is.
I have really
It's
good
different.
something to say. Transparency. You said loans. There's been one loan. You said taxpayer dollars numerous times from people that are in the city council. That's going to make me feel like a taxpayer that I'm paying. And I'm
Yeah,
finding
me
for
too.
this.
If I,
But now I'm finding out
this.
that just on record is that my tax dollars have not gone to fund this
Right, that's
facility.
right.
So I think
how
we
can
need more of
correct
that. And on that note, I apologize. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all very much.
Karen, I want to go on record is, I love this Playhouse. I've supported this Playhouse with my own dollars. I support taxpayers' dollars supporting this Playhouse.
I second that. I have my own time. I
This
know
Playhouse will never be
Like many of us
self-sustaining. This community, I believe, should support it with their tax dollars. And that's an issue for the council and the people of this community.
Absolutely. I don't want to see this building closed. I love it. You said when somebody said I look out my back door and I get to see all the lights on that. I'm sure you appreciate that. It's beautiful. I don't want to see it go. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm so sorry. Other applications.
This guy over here wants to say something.
And I want to mention, part of the strategic plan, it seems like from what I've learned today, is to create an endowment which would pay for everyday funds.
It would help, for sure.
It would help to make sure there's a lot more stability in running of the Playhouse, and it would, and there'd be more security where there wouldn't be situations where they would need loans or assistance from the community the way they have. So that's a big thing.
Everybody, anybody else quickly, or are we ready to go? Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We will be meeting again on the 27th of February at 4 p.m., same place, same time. We'll see what we do about getting microphones. I didn't really realize how many people were going to be here today, so we'll do what we can to make it more accessible. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Before you go, will you